Hello and welcome to our Chrome in the Classroom webinar. This is the second time we're recording this webinar because my internet got very slow when we were doing it live. We got through it, feedback was good, but it was definitely a little bit by the seat of our pants. So we really wanted to re-record this to make it as clear and as good as we possibly could make it for you today. I've got Claire here. You'll hear her voice coming in from the sky with gems of wisdom. And it's just Claire and I today. So we're going to be talking amongst ourselves as we go through the content. Today's webinar is all about celebrating the humble browser. I'm going to talk a lot about Google and Chrome in particular, because they're my favorite browsers. But you can apply most of this to other browsers as well. It's really about just making the most of your interactive panel and whatever device your students have. How does that sound, Claire? You looking forward to it?
Always. You've always got a million ideas on the go, Ben, and that's the only comment I've got really, is that a lot of ideas are about to come flooding at you. But remember, because this is recorded, you can watch it back.
That's right, the pedagogy of the pause button. We love it. Now, one thing I just want to point out, I'm going to talk a lot about Google. And the technology's there on all our interactive panels to install the app you like and the app you love. We have a few different devices too. You're looking at a Chromebox connected to my panel here, but you can also do this on the Android as well. Now, just as a quick example to get you warmed up, we have a website here called Chrome Music Experiments, Chrome Music Lab. It's got a few different names. Just whack anything like that into the Google browser or any browser and you'll get this. This is a shared piano. Now, one of the things I love about Chrome is we can quickly, and we'll do this in more detail, generate a QR code for any website or any sort of place you visit within the internet. I've dragged it out nice and big there. And if anyone wants to scan this, they will actually get not only linked to this site, but because this is an interactive site, they can actually join in this keyboard together. And if you listen closely, you will hear Claire's deft fingers, not deaf, deft fingers playing a little tune for us. With a knick-knack. That was very good, Claire.
Close enough.
All right.
My screen's very small. My fingers were too big for the keys.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's an example. You're joining by your phone or iPad, are you?
A little phone, yes.
Yeah, cool. So what I love about this is I can try and play Old MacDonald and you'll see the keys I'm tapping and you can also join in too. So here we go. Whew, so far, so good. What do you think?
Excellent.
All right, cool. All right, enough of that tomfoolery. Let's kick into it. Worth noting, I just want to, because we mentioned Google so often, it does come up. How do I get my Google resources or even my Microsoft, OneDrive up onto the panel? Now, I've got an Element Series panel here, and with those panels, one of the best ways to do it is to come in, jump 3 buttons along to the user account button. It's a custom button. We can talk about this another day, but once you tap on that, you'll see a happy little cloud. If you tap on that cloud, you get the ability to add plenty of Google Drives or OneDrives directly into the panel. It's a bit like plugging in a USB stick and mounting that drive. So anywhere you go, you'll see your Google Drive. Now, if that's not an option for you, you're on another panel, you can download the Google Drive app, the OneDrive app, any of those storage apps, And if that's not an option for you, you can always visit, was it drive.google.com? I forget the OneDrive equivalent, but you can visit those websites and log in that way too. So that's a question we will get. We won't get it on this session because it's not live, but we did get it in the live one. I just wanted to point that out. Shall we kick off into the browser, Claire?
Yep, let's go.
All right. So, well, I've got a recorded video here. The theory being we record them in the future. And then if we have technical difficulties during the live presentation, it's a little bit easier to smooth that out, which is exactly what happened to us yesterday afternoon. So anyway, hopefully, Claire, you can see my video here. All right, we will play that now. Okay, today we're talking about the humble browser. And we're going to spend a lot of time talking about Chrome browser. I'm not going to lie, that's because it's my favorite. You can choose a browser you would like. The technology is there to allow that. Effectively, if you've got a new panel like these Element series panels, where you swipe in, if you're on a swipe in panel, if you open up your locker, you should see an app in there called Chromium, and that'll come out of the box on every panel. And it's a good browser to start. Now, as you can see from that screen there, I've used the Google Play Store to download a couple of other options as well. Now, if you're on one of our older panels, you might see a few different browsers. You might see Chrome on the panel. It could be an app a previous teacher has installed or a previous presenter has installed. You may also see an app on there called Opera. And there's also a very, in some instances, you will see an internet browser on the panel called Browser. All of these have a different sort of strength and weakness, and your style and presentation method, you know, will speak to what browser you want. Let's jump in and have a look. Okay, so I'm going to swipe in and I'm going to switch over to Chromium. Now, everything you know about a browser is true here. Now, I am on the Android of my titanium panel, and you should get a fairly similar look and feel depending on which panel you are on too. One of the main advantages of the titanium is there's a gray bar down here, and that gives me access to sort of side by side and split screen and a few other different and cool features. But, you know, very quickly to orientate you with the browser, there's usually somewhere to search in a URL or to type in some searched terms. There's usually some navigation buttons to go back and home. It's worth looking for the reload the page button in case something loads slowly or gets caught up. Most browsers now support lots and lots of tabs. So if you want to have lots of things on the go, that's great. I should probably change the color here. If you want to save things for later, look for some sort of bookmarking icon, quick access to a downloads folder, which is handy. And one thing, I'm just going to clear everything to make a bit of emphasis here. There's usually somewhere you can go for more options, and that thing I will talk about lots. If wherever you tap and you need to type, an on-screen keyboard should float up. If you grab it by the hand, you can move it around and position it where you need to. If you needed to hide where you're visiting, you can use the keyboard for that. Alternatively, you can use a whole bunch of mice and Bluetooth and dongled and wired keyboards and mice to control your panel too. So you've got lots of options when interacting with the web. Now, Chromium, and I'll lump in there Opera and the browser app just to cover all the Prometheans out there. Very basic browser, not a lot of bells and whistles, does a good job, opens up most pages, easy to find, very nice. Let me minimize that one down. Now, I've got a few more options in here too to look at. The one I'm going to be spending a lot of time in is Chrome. That's my favorite, but like I said, it's not perfect. And at first glance, you won't see a heck of a lot of difference between Chromium and Chrome. They're very similar. Now, where you start to see a few differences is when you do things like you tap on the search bar and you start to see that some of these, let me grab my highlighter, things start to pop up in different places, as opposed to with Chromium. It's a little, yeah, it's just a little bit more. And one of the things I love about Chrome is that when you tap on an address, you get really fast options to edit the URL, copy it. You don't have to try and drag over and press and hold. Simple, easy. You just tap, hit copy. Or if you want to share this URL with your students, this website, you hit the share button. A whole bunch of options pop up, which is really cool, including my new favorite, QR code. So anyone in the classroom with any device can quickly scan that QR code and get their content on the screen that they're working on. Another great thing about Chrome is that all your bookmarks will sync on any device you're logged into with your Google account. Like you could be sitting on the couch at home and you want to refer back to the website you discovered in class. It should be there, ready for you in the history. So that can be really, really awesome. It's also a thing to watch too. So if you're browsing history at home is a little bit different for your browsing history in the classroom, just something to consider there too. And you know, there's just consider it. So let me minimize Chromium. I want to show you a few other browsers too, just to get you thinking. One is Firefox, which is, again, if you look at it, there's not a heck of a lot of difference, but one of the big differences with Firefox, it's a small thing, I think it's a giant thing, I really like it, is the URL bar. You can pick where you want to put it. In this instance, I've put it down the bottom. And you know, there's practical reasons why sometimes you want the URL bar nice and low. I find Firefox is a really good Robin to Batman as Chrome. Does that make sense? I think it makes sense. Yeah. All right. So this browser here, Firefox Focus, does even less. Like it is the most minimal web browser I've ever seen. But basically it's just automatically self-destruct browsing. So I think it's perfect for maybe a conference room or a shared space where you just visit a website and then leave the room, and all traces of that, you know, interaction are gone. So really good for communal spaces, you know, workplaces, meeting rooms, all those sorts of things. You just literally walk in, the keyboard's already there, and you start typing. I'm going to search for BTN, which brings us to Behind the News, which is the website we were looking at before. And here it is, you know, very, very minimal. Great way to just look at the content. If you've got, you know, stuff like if a website changes or something like that, there is always, it's great that it's got this little, here it is. I've just got to drag all the way down, bring up the URL bar, and then it pops up. This little bin icon here, because you know, if anything changes, if an ad pops up, anything like that, you've got, you know, you can just hit that bin and then everything you're looking at in the bin. I'm not saying it's for every classroom, but I am saying that sometimes there is a niche application for a browser like that. So the next browser I'm going to look at is Edge. It's super popular, it's picking up steam at the moment. I can kind of see why. If we click into it, you're going to see it looks very similar to every other browser you've seen before. It does have a share button. It does generate a QR code. The QR code does look different to the Google one. So that is nice in that it doesn't have the, I kind of like the dinosaur in the QR code, but this is, you know, it's a different look. That's okay. It also, when you tap the More Options button, oh my gosh, there is so much stuff in there that is worth having a play around with, and you never know. Things that I have liked is a real quick access to image search. The read aloud function is pretty cool. And I've heard really, really good things about the collections function here. By all reviews, it is a lot more intuitive to use than Bookmarks, and you can really sort your websites and content nicely with the collections. I'm looking forward to playing around with that a lot more. One of the most underrated and most appreciated features by me of a good Android browser looks like this. Now I'm going to jump back into Chrome, and here you can see I visited my online Microsoft Whiteboard. Microsoft Whiteboard is a very interesting thing to keep a watch on. I don't think it's quite there yet. It certainly is comparable to Jamboard, but so anyway, and the thing I love most about this is if you tap on your three dots on your browser, you should see down in your list of options here somewhere to request the desktop site. And effectively what that's doing is it's saying, hey website, instead of sending me the Android friendly version of this website, send me the one you would send me if I was visiting your website on a computer. Have a good look here. Have a look in this little spot here. And then watch this. So it's going to say, all right, resend it to me. And it's going to come down. Take a second to load. We might speed this up in editing. Look at that. It's brought in an entire extra feature to import images into this whiteboard. Sometimes jumping between the desktop and the Android versions of websites via the three-dot menu can really enhance the experience for you. All right, cool. So I've been very heavy on the Android side of things now. I want to take a moment just to move to a slightly more desktop experience. I'm going over to the Promethean Chromebox here, which is effectively a giant Chromebook once you connect it to the panel here too. So I'm going to open up my browser, which is Chrome, and I've got a website here. Now, crucially, the main difference you'll notice here is that this is a much more desktop-y feel, and it is. This is the exact same browser you get on your Windows computer or your Mac, and you get a lot of features with that. So I'm going to go through some of them. Firstly, easy access to bookmarks. You can add them to that bar. Amazing. And you can also teach with your extensions, which is really excellent. The Chromebox also has some nice features. It's a very sort of web-based operating system, so it updates really constantly. You get constant updates to your keyboard. It's been a while since I've talked to you, so I just want to point out that you now have your function keys. So if you like using keyboard shortcuts, you can now do them at the screen, which is amazing. And it's also got a Stylus Mode, which I'll explain here. If you tap down here, you can actually tell what will happen with the Chromebook or box if you tap with your finger or your pen. So I've got mine set up to be a magnifying glass. So if I interact with the panel with my finger, I'm going to move around it or move some sliders. But if I tap it with my stylus and turn it on, let's turn that on. There we go. That's better. See how it will magnify whatever is underneath what I'm doing, which is super cool. There is one more mode to that too, which is, wait for it, the laser pointer, which is kind of cool in a classroom environment. It's even better if you're, sharing this through a Zoom or a Teams or a Google Meet. All right, so some of the things I like to do with my desktop browser, particularly Chrome. Again, the QR code generator, it's there. You tap on the URL bar, you hit the QR code button, and there you are. People can come up to the panel and scan that. You can download it. You can work with that way. I would encourage you to check out a service called Google Tone. I'll turn my volume up really loud, so hopefully you can hear this. But if I tap on this, I'm not an expert on Google Tone, but from what I understand, you can set your students' devices up to listen for that sound, and that will send the URL to your students' devices. So every time you're at your Promethean tapping that button, all of their devices will get a notification saying, hello, we are now on this page, would you like to join us? Now, the other thing I want to acknowledge is that remembering websites is a total pain. it was at a .com.au or .net. I'm going to show you one way that makes that less important. And it, again, has to do with the three dots up in the corner of the Chrome browser. And what you can do here is go to More Tools. And I want you to have a look at this button called Create Shortcut. Now this appears on Windows, on Mac, on Chrome. And once you do this, effectively what it's going to do is it's going to create sort of like an app out of this website. And I like to turn on this open it in a window button. And when I hit create, you'll see here that it's pulled out the website and it's put it in a box, which is pretty cool. Now, if I close that and open up my shelf full of apps, and I'll scroll down to my last page here, where it is, here it is. This is the one I've created, photography mapped. Now I can put it in a folder, I could move it around, or I could add it down to my shelf, and then anytime I want to visit that website, I can just boop, tap that, and I am into it really quick. So it's a little bit buried away, but it's a great feature. All right, so I'm sure some of you are sitting there saying that's great on Chrome and on desktop, but can I do something similar on my Android at my panel? Yes, you can. I'm going to swipe in and I'm going to open up the browser that comes with my panel. So this one is Chromium. If you were on older ActivPanel, you might be looking at the Browser app, the one that's just called Browser. You can try this in other browsers. It usually works, but I find it always works when you use the default browser. So I'm just going to jump into Chromium. I've got a website here called Behind the News. You may have heard of it for like the 18th time today. I've mentioned it. I'm going to tap on my three dots and I'm going to choose the Add to Home Screen button here. Now, it'll feel like not much has happened, but when you return to the home screen on the new panels, it still feels like nothing has happened. But on the ones with that OPSG Android or with a big ring of apps there, pink button, that Android, you should get a message now. And again, if you're having any trouble with this, just get on the phone to me, send me an email. I'm glad to help. On these panels, on the titaniums, on the nickels, when you swipe in and you go to your locker, you should see a fresh icon here. And when you tap on that, it'll link you to that website every time. So here we go. It's opened up and here we are. Woohoo! We are at Behind the News. So that's a pretty cool way to get into it. If you would like to get rid of that shortcut, you can press and hold on that, rename it, delete it. You've got options to work with it there. And we're back. So Claire, what did you think of that video?
Loved it, Ben. And I've got a few questions here.
Well, we will do our best to answer our questions.
One of the questions is actually about your background.
Okay.
Getting the moving backgrounds in there. So we're going to diverge off and talk about that for a second.
Got to go give the people what they want. That's all good. So this is a live wallpaper. Now on our more powerful panels in the Element series, titaniums, cobalts, we can put on live wallpapers. Now some of our older panels do support live wallpapers as well. To find them, it's quite easy. If you've got the Google Play Store on your panel, it's a great place to start and finish. And we sort of encourage, like the Play Store is great. So that's where I'm going to look today. Hit the search bar. And here's one prepared earlier from our session when we did this live wallpapers. So once we get in here, we can start to scroll through and we can see wallpapers that have been designed for Android that are they have motion in them. And this is my favorite one at the moment. It's the Forest Live wallpaper. It mimics the environment. You can plug it into a live weather feed. You can actually customize the color of the trees. It's lots and lots of fun. Now, putting the app onto the panel itself isn't enough to get the wallpaper on the background. You do have one extra step. That means accessing your settings app. For me, it's on the home screen here, but it'll be in your locker. Go down to display, choose wallpaper, and then choose between, well, you want to choose live wallpaper in this instance, but you can put any sort of static wallpaper you want onto the panel too. Let's jump into live wallpaper. I've got a couple here. I'll go into the forest, and then you can see you've got a big button here to set the wallpaper. You've also got a settings cog where you can go in and really massage the wallpaper to get it exactly how you want to. So you can totally customize it to set up how you want. Like this looks very sort of foresty green by default. I went in and changed all the colors here to warm up the trees and make them a bit autumny. That's something I like to do. All right, Claire, does that sort of answer that question?
Yes.
Cool.
Excellent. Thank you, Ben. So we've also got a question about how to get the Google Play Store onto the new panels. So we've got a school here where we've got some older version, the pink dot panels, where they used to load the Play Store in one way, and now we load it a different way, don't we, with the Element Series panels. Maybe could you just touch on that, Ben, and talk us through how we go about doing that? Because I believe it's through panel management.
Yeah, that's right. So on our new Element Series panels, it's a portal that you log into online, and that's to make it more effective and easier for IT and digital leaders to manage. So there's a two-step process to that, and there will be someone at your school who is hopefully in charge of that. If you're asking the question and no one else is in charge of it, what a good opportunity to add to your resume and take control of this. So we have a portal. So portal.mypromethean.com. If you visit that website, you get a chance to set up your school as an entity and set yourself up as an IT administrator. Now, once you're in the portal, you can see all your panels, add them in there, group them, move them around. And one of the most used features within that free portal is the ability to turn on Google Play for all your panels, for a group of panels. Turn Google Play on right into the locker. It's a really nice solution. There is options within there to sideload apps and install off a USB stick and things like that. All of that is a possibility. Now, I would encourage you to go to the Google Play Store if you can, because it manages updates. You can then further tweak the experience with the Google console. It's a very, very easy, low maintenance way to work. But all of those things are an option. If you're looking at a panel with a pink dot on it, chances are your Google Play Store has already been set up, because it's been working in the classroom for a while now. So essentially open up your apps locker, which is usually a swipe in from the left-hand side of the screen. And then you should see a little shopping basket up here. If you tap on that, the Google Play Store should open. If you tap on that and you get a message saying it's not ready or it's not working, it's a good time to get in touch with us, and we can finesse that, because depending on the make and model, it can require a tiny bit of support.
That's great. That's very informative. So at the end of the show, Ben's going to flash up his contact details again. So if anybody needs to get in touch with us, just watch the end of the show.
Absolutely. Now, if there's no more questions, I'll jump into the second video. And in this video, I've basically just grouped as many cool ideas I've seen out in the field of teachers using the browser to great or creative effect And I'll bring it up on the screen here. Claire, can you see that?
We certainly can.
All right, I'm hitting play now. G'day everyone. I'm on my Google Chromebox here and I'm going to show you some of the coolest examples I've come across of really using your browser to great effect. I've just tried to pick a selection from each of this main sort of stables and a few randoms that really show off the browser as not just a way to show information, but to be really interactive. All right, so first up, I've got probably about 20 or 30 tabs here open up in my browser, and I've split them into groups. All right, the next group I'm going to look at here, I'm just going to call them like the Autodesk family. These apps and sites are great. They're, you know, if you're doing any 3D rendering, design, any of that kind of stuff, Autodesk is a really good place to start and finish and have a very full and happy career. I'm on Autodesk Viewer here, which is a free one, which allows you to import in 3D objects. I've just got one here and interrogate it really, really nicely. It's got some markup tools, some measuring tools, and a few other things in there, which is cool. It's got an explode function too. If your object was made of several different bits, you can explode it out, which is really nice. Yeah, it's just a really nice way to examine your virtual 3D parts before you send them to the printer. The step up from Autodesk Viewer is Tinkercad, part of the same family. It's cool, it's edgy, it's got some, you know, great graphics, and everything's called something cool and hip and trendy. But this is where you get to, you're starting to load up your printing surface. I've got here 3 little bits of a lens cap, and it's really easy for me to get in there and pinch and zoom and look at that and interrogate that, and then we can export it out to 3D printing. Okay, moving on, we're going to look into some creative apps here, and I'm going to start off with one of my favorites, Adobe Spark. This is where you can go to make anything really quickly. You can see a couple of instances there if you want to make some graphics or a presentation or anything like that. Very, very cool. There's a nice big plus button there, and you can go in here and see all of the things. But you know, the top 3 would be a graphic, a short video, or a presentation like a website. Lots and lots of people use this. Very cool. It does have apps for various aspects of it, but you can get to all of it in one place from any device with the browser. Very, very powerful and fun. And the next one, I'm going to keep going with the Adobe stuff here, but we know about Adobe Lightroom. It's a very powerful image editor, and it is, you know, usually installed on a computer or more recently in a mobile device and things like that. You can absolutely get the Lightroom app for the Chromebox or for Android, and it is fantastic. But you can also go to lightroom.adobe.com and log in there, and it's pretty much full featured. So you can go into, I'm in the Discover section here, which is where you can see people's work, which is absolutely awesome. And what is quite cool about this is, I'll let this one load up. You can watch how people edit. So it will take you through, there we go, it's given, even just the messaging and things like that, it's quite prescriptive and fun. But what we can do here is we can watch how this particular photographer has edited their image. If you want, you can save it out as a preset and keep it. Really cool. And again, speaks to the power of the browser, that it can edit images, you know, just with the power of the internet, man. It's really cool. All right, let me close those. And the third one I want to show you is not strictly speaking Adobe. It's a website called photop.com. And it's basically, it's a Photoshop emulator in the browser. I know, it's really cool. If you've had any experience with Photoshop, as you click around the menus, you'll see it feels very much like Photoshop. We've got, you know, the layout is very, very similar. It's not exactly the same, but it's 90% there. And if you're looking for an option to have Photoshop-ish tools on any device, straight out of a browser, this is great. I don't know of anything that I would compare on a Chrome device with that kind of powerful editing. If I need to edit a photo and I can't get to my actual copy of Photoshop, this is really, really good. Now, that said, it does have a few things with it. So it does come with this big section up here with ads, because that's how it pays its bills, which is fine. You can be a little bit sneaky with that, because everything that happens on the app actually is actually happening sort of, you know, in this side of the screen. So I've seen a lot of people work with Photop just like this. So they can, you know, move the ads off to one side, still get a pretty big workspace and get a lot of work done. All right, we are moving on to my little Google cluster of goodness. This is Jamboard. I love Jamboard because it is a page by page whiteboarding experience, and it is very easy to share this document with all your students, or, you know, whoever you're presenting to, and they can all edit it together, and you see a little avatar of who's doing what. There's some really great tools in just the browser version, but in terms of just getting the content to everyone really, really fast, Jamboard is a very, very impressive tool. Cursive. This is a very new app by Google. It's you basically look for cursive.apps.chrome, and then you've got it, which is cool. But you can get to it from any browser. Now, from what I could tell as of going to press today, the only one you can write into is if you're on a Chromebook or some sort of Chrome device. So any other device with any other browser can watch what you're doing on the screen, but this one is the one you edit on. It's a very, very simple tool. Pen tool, some, you know, tools to make some more space, and then you just get in there and you start to create and write. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. It's very new, but I just wanted to point it out. Now, in terms of an interactive browser experience, the Chrome Music Lab has to be up there as one of the most fun places to go and spend some time. You get to enjoy the benefits of multi-touch, which is cool. And there are a lot of tools in here that, you know, music teachers can use to convey, you know, how sound works. One of the ones I've been using a lot lately, almost as that, like, just a fun icebreaker, particularly if everyone's on Zoom and Teams, is the shared piano. It's nice, you can play a song on it. I can't play anything on it, maybe Old MacDonald at a stretch, but it's really easy to share this out by copying the link and posting it, or if you use our trick here to create a QR code, people can scan that right away, and, you know, they're in the same keyboard as you are. So you can have people all around the planet all tapping away on this keyboard. The music from everyone, you know, when I play, you hear it. When you play, I hear it. It all happens simultaneously. It is a very nice bit of kit. Now, the last one here I want to talk about is YouTube. We all know about YouTube. There's apps, there's, you know, websites. I really don't know how much I can offer on YouTube, but I just want to tell you about YouTube via the browser, because it does offer a few little things and a few little quirks. Now, if you have a look at YouTube here, I've got a video up You will see stuff down the sides. You'll see the comments. Advertising will pop up every now and then. It's just one of those things. Now, I learnt an incredible trick that if you come up to the taskbar here, and if you tap between, let me grab my magnifier here, between the T and the U, not between the U and the T, but if you get in between the T and the U there, and add in just a little hyphen like that, and then hit enter, this whole experience will change. You'll see here it's a nice clean interface. There's no ads. It should play straight away without starting with an ad. Good.
This is not sponsored.
I kind of want some cereal now. But it is a very clean, quick, easy way to work. You don't have to wait for your video to start. Helps with attention spans and things like that. The other thing I noticed that was really cool is if you come up here and you were to copy that URL into a document and things like that, it still works that way. So you can have your students click on those links and get straight into their content too. All right, cool. Now we get into the random sort of fun section. I've got a few websites here that I just want to get you thinking. I just want to get you thinking about them. Now, PHET, so P-H-E-T, if you search for that in a browser here, University of Colorado, this is just absolutely full of interactive activities that you can click on, drag around. They're very fun. They're fun. Let's be honest. You might remember this color vision one I subjected you all to in the last webinar. So now you know how to make colors with light. Very, very cool. There's maths, there's science, amazing stuff. This one here, this is the secret door. If we open the door, we get taken to a totally random environment. Ooh. And it will play some music too, just to help get you in the theme. I've seen a very, very clever teacher nearby me use this to get students inspired about writing. So instead of, staring at a blank page, they can start with something like this. They can come up here and then with a couple of leading questions. Where do you think you are? What colors can you see? What do you think it'll feel like there? What's the temperature? You start to build a scene, or at least an introduction, really, really quickly. This next one I use all the time when I'm teaching. It's called Photography Mapped. This one here is a scenario-based sort of interaction. So we've got a scene here where there's a helicopter in front of some buildings and it's nighttime. You can adjust that with these sorts of sliders. You can adjust your aperture, shutter speed, and your ISO. And that will give you, if I take a photo, a result. And you can see if you're over or under and if you need to change things here. Great if you're teaching photography, but if you're not thinking about photography, I want you to think about your subject area and I want you to type that into Google and I want you to type interactive graphic or interactive website after it, and you will probably find something just like this for what you like to teach. All right, let me load this one up. Now I've got this on this page because loading this page up is part of the thing, and it's not strictly about education, this one. It is about educators who grew up or have experienced the 80s though, so I thought it was fun to include. As the last thing here, it's called poolsuite.net, and it turns your browser into a very, very cool, 80s or, maybe early 90s Macintosh computer here. So if we jump in here, welcome to the computer. Let me turn the volume up a bit. You know what's happening. It's cool. It's got a great fun interface here. Lots of music and audio channels your students can pick from, or you. And, if you're just trying to explain how amazing life was in that Miami Vice-ish era, you can you can totally talk about this stuff here too. And you know, it's definitely for fun. I'm just having fun with you here. All right, Claire, that was a very big video with a lot of stuff in there. How's everyone feeling? Does anyone need a sit down or a cup of tea?
No, it's looking good. So one of the most exciting things for me with the titanium and cobalt panels of the Element series is the ability to what we call split the screen. So to have two apps running side by side. And where I see a really practical, easy application of this in the classroom is where you might have a browser open alongside your Whiteboard app. And I know you've prepared a little something earlier.
I have. I will give myself maximum screen real estate here too.
Excellent.
So yes, I've prepared something a little bit earlier. So I've got my recent apps open here, and you can see I've got two apps running on my panel at the moment. So I'll open up my browser because we're all about the browser. And you can see here, I'm on a National Geographic Kids, and we're searching and learning about wombats. Yeah. Now, would you like me to open up the whiteboard?
I would, please.
Coming right up. Here we go, whiteboard. So now I've got the two apps, they're open. The whiteboard is dominant on the screen. I'll just do a little squiggle down here just to remind everyone where those controls are to go into split screen and side by side and things like that. I mean, these controls are great, but you don't actually necessarily need them, because what you can do is you just grab the gray bar at the bottom. Now, incidentally, the gray bar at the bottom of your panel is the best indicator as to whether or not your panel can do this, okay? So if you've got a gray bar running down the bottom of your app, that's your cue that you can jump into split screen. So I'm going to take the gray bar, I'm going to walk it over to the left-hand side of the panel. You see how the screen is changing there, Claire?
Mm-hmm.
That's effectively snapping. So I can let go of my finger, snap that one that way. I'll grab my wombats and National Geographic, drag that over this way, snap that there. So now I am side by side. Did you see how the website just reloaded itself into a nice format?
Good, isn't it?
It's a neat little trick, isn't it?
Yeah.
And now I presume you've sent me this file, you've sent me this website, you're going to put me to work.
And the other thing that I really liked was how you can really quickly create the QR codes in the browsers. I think there's a really good use case for that in classrooms. I can think of off the top of my head, you know, a few instances maybe where you've got vision or hearing impaired children who have their own device that they need to be using to be able to see or hear properly. So it's one way to get content quickly to their screen from the panel. And also I can envisage myself probably using that for breakout groups or small group work, sending the kids off with smaller devices while another group are still working on something up at the larger panel.
Yeah, for sure. Now, to do it on Android, okay, we're on a website, we've browsed it on our panel. I'll call this the line up here with the website. Like that's, to me, that's the search bar, yeah? This one up here. I think Google has a different name for it. I think they call it the Omni bar. But I'd basically just tap on that. And then can you see that little my little share icon there? This one here.
Yep.
Yeah, cool. Tap on that. A menu will pop up. And then here is our friend, the QR code.
That's cool. So you can do it on any browser.
Any Chrome browser. Yep. It came out probably towards the end of last year. So if you haven't done your updates in a long time, you might not have it, but it's a free update. You get that and you can download it if you wanted to and print it out, you know, for things like the link to a Google Classroom or a shared drive or something like that. It's funny, obviously you walk in anywhere and you see a QR code, but they're actually popping up quite a bit in classrooms too for that purpose. All right, everybody, thank you for sticking by with us. If you were there live with us, appreciate your patience as we, literally MacGyvered our way through that one. Apologies for my internet connection. The texts are coming, and they've said all day Thursday, all day Friday, they're going to be repairing things. So
that's in your neighborhood.
Yeah. So there was no outage reported, but incidentally, all Thursday from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Friday, we're doing maintenance in your area to improve things. So draw your own conclusion there. So thank you for this re-record too. It's exactly the same as the other one, minus all the pixelation. And hope you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, please just get in touch. My email is there. You can scan that QR code and drop me a message on LinkedIn if you'd rather do that. Just trying to be as accessible as possible because we do love to help. Yeah.
We do.
All righty. Thank you, Claire.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks, everybody.
All right. We'll talk to you again. Thank you. Bye.